Today, we're very pleased to feature Alberta Securities Commission, the regulatory agency responsible for administering the province's security laws, and we welcome James MacTavish, Senior Advisor, Investor Education. James holds a Bachelor of Communications from the University of Calgary and is currently a Senior Advisor, Investor Education at the Alberta Securities Commission, where he leads the investor and consumer education campaign designed to help Albertans strengthen their investment literacy and protect themselves from investment fraud. Before joining the ASC, James worked for nearly a decade in the rapidly changing technology space, delivering communication campaigns for global technology company. James, we've all received those phone calls. Tell us how Alberta Securities Commission protects investors from improper, misleading, or fraudulent practices, and what do we need to know in order to protect ourselves?
Definitely. Thanks, Colleen, for the intro, and hopefully today's presentation will answer just that, but as well give you some information on some recent vulnerable investor reforms that have come into place. So some great takeaway actions to do after this presentation. So I'm so glad to be here to present during Financial Literacy Month. It's so important to keep abreast of the different types of investment scams that are out there and the ones that are targeting senior populations in Alberta. So glad to be here. All right, let's get in it. All right, so before we start, I just want to remind everyone that today's presentation is to provide helpful information about securities and is not intended to provide legal, accounting, or other professional advice. If you have questions about the types of investments that you have, whether you should get into a new type of investment, those are definitely questions that you should contact your financial advisor about. We cannot provide information around that. And if you haven't heard of the ASC before, or you haven't attended one of our presentations in the past that we hold with the Kirby Center, I, for one, miss doing them in the auditorium. I can't wait for those days to be back. But alas, we'll do it in Zoom. But if for those who don't know about the ASC is the regulatory agency responsible for administering the province's securities laws. We have about 200 employees who create and enforce the laws, rules, and regulations that govern the Alberta capital market. And while we report to the Alberta government, we are funded by market participants, not by taxpayers. So when a company or person is required to be registered under the Alberta Securities Act, or a company goes public, they pay us fees as a means to ensure a fair and efficient capital market and investor protection. And as part of the ASC's investor protection mandate and investor education, I provide independent, unbiased information like this presentation today and resources to Albertans through checkfirst.ca. So I highly recommend everyone take a look at that website. So today we'll be talking about fraud facts, Mabel's story, common ways you can be approached, common types of investment fraud, the red flags of fraud, how to protect yourself, and how to report an investment scam. So before we dive into this information, what is a security? Because you hear it in our name, Alberta Securities Commission, so it's important to understand what that means. Well, a security is a financial instrument that holds some type of value. Now, when it comes to investing, we instantly think of stocks, but it could also be bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, even loans and promissory notes. The one thing I really want to drive home with everyone here today is that if you're giving your money to someone or a firm with the expectation of a return on that original principal, that is a security and follows securities laws. The reason why I say this is that a lot of bad actors will try to make it sound like what they're offering you is something that isn't a security, isn't an investment, and doesn't have to follow investment laws. And so they don't have to, align to the Alberta Securities rules and regulations around investments, but they certainly do. So remember, if you're ever giving anyone money with the expectation of a return on that money, that is a security and follows securities laws. The other thing I want to highlight is that investment fraud does happen. We talk to so many victims of investment fraud who say, I just couldn't believe it happened to me. The person that I was talking to was so nice, and the investment offer sounded so great. but it does happen. And the more we can be aware of our surroundings and be aware of the types of scenarios and tactics that a fraudster utilizes, the better off we can be. So we're going to run through that, as well as some safeguards you can put on your accounts as well. So this is great information for you, everyone. So fraud in Alberta, I'd like to touch on fraud in Alberta because a lot of people don't understand how prevalent it can be. So with this question, what percentage of Albertans believe they've been approached with an investment opportunity that may be questionable, not entirely real, or potentially fraudulent? Well, the real correct answer is 48%, and that's a pretty high number. But if you're looking at older age demographics, that increases. So Albertans aged 45 to 64, that goes up to 54%, and Albertans aged 65 and up, it goes to 60%. So that is a lot of people that are getting offered fraudulent investments. So all the more that we have to stay abreast of all the different tactics they utilize. And so next, I would like to walk through a story of someone who in Alberta was a victim of investment fraud. Her name is Mabel. So we'll hear her story and we'll just quickly run through some of the key markings of fraud that she missed.
I am not a high-risk investor, and I have a very good knowledge of investments. I was really skeptical at first, and it took me a long time to get involved in making an appointment and deciding. They figured that I needed to retire, and they had some things to offer that would help me retire earlier. I felt a little bit rushed in doing that and didn't have time to make a decision properly, and I should have known better. I really never felt good about the guy from the beginning, and then he ended up taking my money and promised me these great big returns. When I felt that something was wrong and my investments weren't doing anything, I had called him on the phone and got pretty nervous. I thought, this is not going to be what I figured, and he was pretty positive and keeping my hope up. I realized that I lost my investment when I wasn't getting anything forthcoming. I asked the company to reimburse my RSP money, and they said there's nothing there to reimburse. My money was hard-earned. The investment was a big investment to me, but you have some nervousness about what you'd done and how you could have used the extra money. My experience working with ASC was positive. They were sympathetic, and they were trying to see what they could find out for me and go forward. Check your investment carefully. Check the people that are offering the investment. Take your time. Don't go into it right away. If you can't lose the money, then you shouldn't be looking there.
And so that's an unfortunate story about Mabel. There are a few things that I want to highlight for everyone. The first being that she felt uncomfortable with the person offering the investment. Remember that you do not have to work with any financial advisor or individual or firm that you feel uncomfortable about. If you're uncomfortable about a particular investment that they're offering, you do not have to say yes to it. That is in your power, and any type of financial advisor works on your behalf. So this is something that you lead, and if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. The other element is that she felt rushed. And no credible financial advisor will ever rush you into an investment. That is something that is a telltale sign of fraud. So unfortunately, Mabel, started to realize these red flags after handing over her money. But we're going to do everything we can today to know about these red flags. So if this ever comes your way, you can keep aware of those red flags that might pop off in your own head, and you can back away and report it to the Alberta Securities Commission. So let's keep going. And so one thing I want to, highlight is the impact of investment fraud. We've seen and heard stories from smart people who have not only lost their own retirement, but have also impacted their family and future as well. This is increased stress, which can impact your health in many ways. Unfortunately, it may also cause a breakup of close relationships, spouses, friends, breakup of church organizations and groups, especially when the fraud comes from someone you know. Often with fraud like this, it's very difficult to get your money back. That's why I'm so happy you are here today, because you may see something fraudulent in your time online or in person now that things are starting to open up again, and you can report it. And doing your research before you hand over your money is one of the most important things you can do. So we're going to provide tips today so you can make sure that you research any type of investment offer that comes your way and make sure that you're not investing in something that's completely fraudulent. Now, when it comes to common ways of being approached, you may notice from the slide that it's from every different angle. I think we're well aware that calls with unsolicited investment offers or emails with unsolicited offers for investments, we're pretty skeptical about. But the other angle that they come in through is through advertisements as well as social interactions. Right now, there is a variety of fraudulent investment ads that are all across Kijiji and online websites targeting Albertans who may have lost their job, may have stressors about the retirement savings, and positioning themselves as great work from home opportunities to make money investing. These are things that you should be very skeptical of and not approach, whether it's contacting them by email or calling them. A lot of these are positioned to target our anxieties about money, and more so now than ever during a pandemic. So be careful of any kind of advertisements you see on the internet. Facebook, social channels, all of those things are very, very dangerous. The other is social interactions, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of upcoming slides. But really, what I'm trying to point out here is that fraud can come through many different angles, through our friends, family, online, on phone calls, and in advertisements. They really do utilize whatever access channel they have to you. So the more we can be skeptical, be aware of those red flags, and not make any rash decisions without doing our research first can help us to stay safe. So common types of fraud, and I want to highlight the most prevalent ones we see so you can know that the telltale markers of it and keep yourself safe. And so for the first, we're just going to play a video about affinity fraud and Ponzi schemes, and these run very close together because they usually have affinity fraud as the way to get people in on the scam, and then Ponzi schemes is the scam itself. So let's take a look.
Affinity fraud can happen to anyone, but seniors are often a targeted group. You could be targeted by someone close or a member of a group with common interests. They'll use their relationship with you to get you to invest, often without you having done any research on the investment because of the trust that you have for the person. When a fraudster targets a group, they'll build relationships with influential members to gain acceptance. Ultimately, their goal is to convince these leaders to trust their investment advice, and in doing so, convince others in the group to invest along with them. The leaders often have no idea the fraudster is out to steal your money for their personal use. In the end, you're left with a huge loss and are less likely to report the fraud because you don't want to lose a friend, or you simply can't believe your trust could be abused that way. Protect yourself. Know the red flags. Be suspicious of anything that seems too good to be true, and research anyone who gives you investment advice, no matter how trustworthy the person seems. Don't be drawn in by lofty promises. Even short-term initial returns may be false. Many affinity scams are Ponzi schemes, where new investor money is used to make payments to earlier investors, giving a false and temporary illusion of success. Ultimately, research the investment and the person recommending it. Ask plenty of questions and consider seeking advice from an objective third party. Check first and research using the ASC's resources before you make a decision to invest. And always consider what you can and what you can't afford to lose.
Now, a key thing to remember about affinity fraud is that it starts close to home and is very insidious in that it comes through to you from a friend or family member who is unknowingly already involved in a scam, but thinks they're offering a great investment opportunity. Scam artists will do this tactic with religious organizations, ethnic groups, social clubs, professional associations. They really work whatever angle they can to get into a large group to then start selling within the group and getting group members to then sell it as well. The best way to avoid affinity fraud is no matter where an investment offer comes from, whether it's your friend of 20 years or a family member that you love dearly, is always to check where it originates from, whoever that person is or who that firm is. If the person doesn't know, that is a sign to back away. If they do know, get that information and check their registration. You can do that at checkfirst.ca, or you can call the Alberta Securities Commission and we can help you check. But you have to make sure that the person who's offering the investment is registered with the Alberta Securities Commission here in the province of Alberta to actually be selling investments. It's a great way to stop investment fraud in its tracks by making sure that the person who's offering it is registered. And if they're not, that's something you can report to us. So always check where it originates from and don't just rely on your friend's lack of research. And as I mentioned, Ponzi schemes run closely with affinity fraud. And it's a type of scam in which investors are promised high rates of return with little or no risk. In actuality, there is no real investment, and the scam is perpetrated only as long as new investors keep putting money into the scheme, which is then funneled up to the scam artist and he runs away. So make sure with Ponzi schemes that if you hear about high rates of return with little or no risk, that is a clear sign of fraud. Additionally, if you hear that they want you, or the firm or the individual wants you to also promote the investment to others, get others involved and invest, that is a clear marker that you might be dealing with something that's a Ponzi scheme. There is no legitimate investment behind the business, and it's just a scheme to get people to put in their money and get it funneled up to the scam artists. So you always got to be aware. And the other thing I want to highlight is investment trends are also something to keep an eye on. This is not a slide to say that these trends in themselves are illegal or scams, but most of them are complicated and complex. Fraudsters leverage trends and news to promote false investments to excited potential investors who are looking to get rich quick. With the fast-paced and ever-growing nature of the financial industry, there are constantly new or exciting opportunities for investors. For example, robo-advisors are a great option for a lot of people, but a scammer could build a spoofed website that looks like a robo-advisor. So while you may be eager to get in on a trend to capitalize on its apparent success and avoid missing out, you should always take the time to do your research. When it comes to these websites for these different investment firms or robo-advisors, we highly recommend that you go to checkfirst.ca and check the Alberta registry list. That will tell you all the companies that are registered here in Alberta, and also provide you with their exact email address or website address. So you can go to their exact website and make sure that it's not the spoofed one from some scam artist. Additionally, the national registration search, which you can also utilize on CheckFirst, can help you make sure that you're dealing with a registered entity or individual. So highly recommend that you guys do that. So now let's talk about the red flags, because I mentioned it earlier that there's red flags that a lot of people don't know about or might have had a creeping suspicion about during an investment scam and go, oh, I wish I knew and had that in my memory. So we're going to walk through these, and please be aware that if any of these ever come up with an investment scam, this is one of those times where you need to stop in your tracks and really listen to that red flag, because it's your body telling you that you might be in something that is not entirely real. So the first is guaranteed high returns, no risk. Investments will always have some level of risk, and the duality between risk and reward will always be the same. High risk means a high potential for return. Low risk means low potential for return. This will never change. So if anyone ever tells you that they have high return, no risk investment, do not get involved, because you're dealing with someone who's trying to sell you on a fantasy. Get great investment opportunity. Your friends can't be wrong. This is another one where it's affinity fraud. You can't rely on your friend or family member's lack of research to be your lack of research. Always find out where the investment offer originates from, and don't just hand over your money right away. You might be unknowingly getting yourself involved in a scam that your friend or family member has as well. The next is insider tips, profit like the experts. A lot of different ads online will promote seminars to teach you how to invest in the right stock, and they have the right tips, and they have insider information. Remember that insider information is illegal. We have whistleblower lines for this, and any kind of information from a public company that is on the stock market has to provide that information publicly to everyone to ensure a fair and efficient capital market. So right off the bat, if anyone's telling you that they have insider information, you don't want to be doing anything illegal with your investments. So make sure you walk away and report it to the Alberta Securities Commission. The next is don't miss out on this great opportunity. Get in now. One of the weaknesses of a scam artist is your ability to research and take the time to check the registration. They know this, and so they try to promote their investments with urgency. They tell you that if you don't get in today or you don't get in right now, you'll lose out on these incredible earnings in the next day. Don't let anyone rush you, and no credible and registered financial advisor or firm will ever rush you to an investment. So if anyone urges you and rushes you and you feel uncomfortable, remember that that's a red flag of fraud. The next is offshore investments, tax-free. Now, as Canadians, we do have access to some great accounts that help us either have tax-free investments or have taxes deferred. I'm talking specifically about the tax-free savings account and the RRSP. Now, when it comes to other ways to avoid taxes, there isn't any. Unfortunately, the two things that are for sure in life, like the old saying goes, death and taxes are always going to happen. And so when it comes to advertisements for offshore investments so you can avoid taxes, do not take it up. When you invest in these offshore platforms, you're investing in the unknown. These platforms are completely fake. Your money goes in and you never see it again. And because it's offshore, there's no way to help you recover those funds. So remember that taxes are a given, and we do have to pay them as Canadian citizens. So outside of the TFSA and RSP, there's not much we can do about that. So don't try to look for offshore investment platforms. The next is celebrity endorsements. It must be legitimate. There are so many different types of celebrity advertisements for different types of investments online, in newspapers. These are all things that you should just ignore flat out. Celebrities have no claim or stake in your financial future. They do not have the proficiency in investing to tell you that type of advice around investing. And a lot of them are just fake, created by fraudsters. So do not let any kind of celebrity endorsements be your guiding path when it comes to your investments. And check registration, a crucial point of a red flag, and I put a star on it for that exact reason. Check the registration for any individual or firm offering you an investment. By law, they have to have registration to do that. On our website, checkfirst.ca, you can search and actually check the registration, both on the Alberta registry list as well as the national registration search. It takes about 2 minutes to do both. Really simple check, but it provides you so many protections to know that you're working with someone legitimate. So always check registration. And we also created the Fraudsters Playbook at checkfirst.ca. You can access it. It's a free resource, and I'm happy to share it with you in an email after this as well, if you would like it. But it helps you understand the situations and scenarios in which you might be offered an investment scam, because it might be difficult to recognize when you might be in that scenario. The playbook gives you tactics a fraudster takes to implement a scam, gain your trust, and ultimately steal your money. But it also gives you actions you can take at every step to recognize, avoid, and report scams. So I highly recommend this book. And to give you a quick rundown of how a fraudster operates their scam, the first is they identify a possible victim. And now this could be someone who is having anxiety about their retirement savings, maybe having anxiety around not having a job, or have a fear of missing out on the next big investment. Once they find that victim, then they befriend and earn their trust. Now, at this step, they work overtime to become your best friend, take you out for dinners, interact with you a lot, call you a lot. You'll notice that they take a very keen interest in your financial well-being. That's when they move into step 3, which is they showcase the benefit of the investment. At this step, they might talk about investments they've got into and done really well with. They might show you their nice cars. They might show you the nice gifts they get their grandkids. They might have a nice house, but all of this could be just funded through defrauding of others. Once they kind of have the victim, you're interested in the investment, that's when they offer the opportunity. This is when the amount of communication and outreach reach a very high point of interaction. They are working overtime to get your money from you. They will provide you with fake papers, news releases, all of this information to get them to sign on. Once they receive the money, they quickly move into step 6, which is they disappear. They stop answering phone calls. They don't come around anymore. They give excuses as to why you can't get your money back. Over time, this completely goes into the ghosting act, and they do not answer anything anymore. At this point, a lot of people know and feel like they've been defrauded and are really embarrassed, but this is a crucial time that always contact the ASC. Don't suffer in silence. The last step is target the victim again. And not many people know this, but when it comes to a fraud and the fraudster takes your money, they then sell your information to other fraudster rings so they can also then try to target you. So you might receive a call from what you think is the RCMP saying they can get your money back for a fee. You pay the fee and they disappear again and you're defrauded again. So if anyone ever contacts you about reclaiming your assets or your investments or getting your money back, contact the ASC right away and make sure to get some information from them so you can report it to us. No credible agency will ever charge you a fee to help you, get justice for yourself or bring a fraudster to court. Now, how to invest safely? Well, we've broken this out into 3 main steps: check, protect, and invest, and they're very simple. First is check your registration. Check the registration of any individual or firm you're looking to work with. Again, checkfirst.ca has this information for you. Very quick search can help you and save you a lot of heartache. It can also show you the disciplinary history of any individual or firm. This will tell you if they've broken any securities laws, which is great information to have and a great way to decide if someone is the right person or a firm is the right organization to help you with your investing goals. The next is always ask questions to make sure you're comfortable with the advisor. Make sure you understand that the way they're approaching investments is the way you want and expect it to happen. There is a variety of different advisors out there that work with high risk investments to those that focus exclusively on retirees or those nearing retirement. Make sure you find one that you're comfortable with and has an investment portfolio that you feel makes sense to you. So you can always ask, how will you help me reach my goals? How are you paid? Understand if it's commission-based or if it's hourly. Make sure you know that the fees that you're going to be paying are exactly what is laid out for you and that you're okay with them and they're not going to be too much. And make sure you ask, what level of service can I expect? This is so important. Everyone has a different expectation of the information and services they get from their financial advisor. So be upfront with what you need and how many times you expect to reach out to them and talk to them about your investment portfolio. This is a crucial step. And again, I just want to remind everyone that checking registration is crucially important. Tell everyone you know when it comes to investing that checking registration is the critical first step. Just under 1 in 5 Albertans with a financial advisor actually check their registration. And this is something that the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States said would stop 80% of investment fraud in its tracks. So very easy step that can save you a lot of heartache. And when it comes to investments, do your research outside of the information that's provided to you by the individual or firm. It's always great to talk to others about it, see what they think, do your own digging both online and in the newspaper and different websites that focus on investing. It really helps to broaden your search outside of the information that's given to you. So you can make a really keen and understanding judgment on whether it's the right investment for you. It can also help you understand if it's legitimate. You might find discrepancies, you might find inconsistencies with what the individual is giving you for the investment, and it can help you make a more clear understanding and decision on the investment itself. Please remember that no research or no financial plan makes you an easy target for fraud. If you're thinking about just getting rich quick, if you don't really have any plan in place for your investments, you might be setting yourself up as an easy target for fraud, because those are the types of individuals that fraudsters like the most. They can sell them on a dream and get them really excited about big returns. So remember these tips: ask questions and demand satisfactory answers. If there's anything that you're investing with your financial advisor that you don't understand, make sure you get those answers. And if you don't get them, don't invest. And you may question whether that's the right financial advisor for you if you're not getting what you need in terms of satisfactory answers. Stick with your own investment goals. Don't let anyone tell you what to be investing for. A lot of fraudsters will try to sell you on a get-rich-quick scheme. We have to avoid those, because those are telltale markers that you might be putting yourself into higher risk investments than you are willing to take if they're legitimate. And worst case, you're dealing with a completely fraudulent investment to begin with. Do your own research: company, investment, firm, and individual. Check those registrations and check the investment itself on your own. Be skeptical. Know and watch out for those red flags, as I mentioned. It's so important that you don't ignore those gut instincts that you have and those red flags that pop up in your mind as these things happen. And talk to others about finances. Talk to your loved ones, talk to your grandkids, talk to your spouse, talk to your bank advisor if you have one that's not related to the investment offer. They may uncover red flags that you may have missed. That's always important. And don't be a victim of your own manners. We get the joke that a lot of Canadians are so polite and we're overly nice, but when it comes to your money, no one cares about it more than you do. So don't feel like you have to get involved with any investment you're not comfortable with, or work with any financial advisor you're not comfortable with or meets your needs. And don't be fooled by appearances. A lot of people think that fraudsters look a certain way, but they usually put on a look of success. So don't let their nice cars, nice clothing, or nice house fool you into thinking that they are this really great, amazing investor that can help you. Always back it up with the facts and research. When you're done all these steps, then you're ready to make a decision and invest. And this seems like a lot of work, and it is, but it's a great way to safeguard yourself and your investments that you've worked so hard to earn over your lifetime. Don't let it just disappear with a poor decision with a fraudulent investment scam. Now, one thing I also wanted to highlight was that the Canadian Securities Administrators, of which the ASC is a member of, published final amendments on July 15th, 2021, that will improve the protection of older and vulnerable clients across Canada by providing registrants with tools and guidance to address situations involving diminished mental capacity or financial exploitation of their clients. So this means two things that they've created for you as a client. One is trusted contact person, and registrants will be required to take reasonable steps to obtain the name and contact information of a TCP from an individual and written consent from the TCP to be contacted in specific circumstances if the registrant has concerns about possible financial exploitation, or if a client is vulnerable and has serious concerns about their financial matters. I just want to also highlight that a TCP does not have authority to make transactions on the account, but is intended to be a resource to assist registrants, so financial advisors, in protecting the client's financial interests or assets in these circumstances. While clients are not required to identify a TCP in order to open an account, registrants will be required to take reasonable steps to obtain and update TCP information as part of the Know Your Client process. So this is coming by the end of the year. You might get contacted by your financial advisor to talk about adding a TCP. If they don't, always reach out and ask to have a TCP added. I highly recommend and strongly urge to add a trusted person in your life to your account that your financial advisor can always contact in case of any kind of scenario where there might be some type of financial exploitation or they can't get a hold of you. Again, they can't make any decisions on your account and they can't spend or take out any of your money, but it's just another contact resource to be a safeguard against fraud. So highly recommend. The other part of this amendment is that it provides temporary holds, and the amendment creates a regulatory framework for registrants who place a temporary hold on transactions, withdrawals, or transfers in circumstances where the registrant has a reasonable belief that there's a financial exploitation of a vulnerable client, or there's concerns about a client's mental capacity. So they can help stop any type of money being transferred out of your account unknowingly. So highly recommend that you talk to your financial advisor or bank representative to add a TCP to your account. It's a great way to add another layer of safety to provide safeguards against investment fraud. And I just want to remind everyone that you can get free and unbiased resources at checkfirst.ca. And if you have any suspicions about an investment that's been offered to you, or you believe you're in an investment that seems not legitimate, or that a company or individual has acted against securities laws, always contact us. We are here for you, and we work to make sure that we can go after fraudsters and keep you safe. So please reach out to us if anything ever happens to you. Don't suffer in silence. And if you're not sure who your particular fraud case should go to, contact us anyways, and we can direct you to the right organization to help you. With that, I just want to say that if you would like more investor education articles and information, including investor alerts, you can always subscribe at checkfirst.ca and get those directed right to your inbox. I highly recommend people sign up. It's a great way to get information around investment literacy and staying safe from investment fraud. And if you have any questions after today's presentation that you think of after the Q&A, please email checkfirst@eac.ca or call us, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. All right, with that all finished, I'd like to now turn it over to the Q&A portion for any questions from the audience.
Thank you very much, James. That was great information.
Perfect.
And yes, absolutely. We would encourage anybody that has any questions, any input or feedback, by all means, take advantage of the Q&A button or the chat button on your menu bar, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. If you wish to raise a hand to ask a question, we can try to facilitate that for you as well. In the meantime, the great information. Thank you very much, as always, James. Yeah. It's nice to know that there is an organization out there that is attempting to protect us. We've all gotten those phone calls, and they all do sound so legitimate. But I think that thing that comes out loud and clear is listen to your gut instinct. If your spidey senses go, then absolutely listen to that. And I'm going to put us on gallery view here so that. And so then, and yes, to listen to those, watch for those red flags. And one of the things that I guess that I'm, when you were referring to being involved with the scams, maybe friends get you involved with because they think it's so fabulous. They may not realize that they're being scammed as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's always one of those things. You'll be very cautious when you are recommending an investment to someone. One of the things too, and that it's always so difficult to identify some of these scammers, You know, I've learned recently that they seem to be taking on other people's phone numbers. So
Yeah.
instead of it coming from a number that's easily identified that you just don't bother to answer, it's coming as a phone number. And I had one fella recently had posted on Facebook, I think it was, that he got a call from his own cell number to
Yeah.
himself that was a scammer. So they
Absolutely.
are just absolutely, you know, innovative in what they're trying to do to get to you.
Yeah. And one of the things we see quite a bit is that they've become really, really good with technology and creating websites that look like your standard website. They look like your CIBC or your Royal Bank websites. And so it's always important to take that step to just stop and make sure that you've typed in the right URL. Make sure that you look, and if you see any kind of spelling mistakes, that's a sign that you might not be dealing with the right website. And always call the investment firm that you're looking to work with. You can always check their URL at the checkfirst.ca. You can just check the name and it will provide you the correct URL when you do the registration check. So important, because we see so many fake websites out there that people log into and talk to what they think is a financial advisor, and it's completely fake and it's just mocked up to look like a real one. So it's heartbreaking, but they're being very crafty. We just got to keep ahead of it.
Yeah, and the emails as well. You know, I've gotten emails that say they're coming from someone, but if you click on, and you can see the site that they're actually coming from, it's completely different. So yeah, absolutely. If your spidey senses go, then listen to it. How do you going about reporting if you think that you are being scammed? They can give you a call and report the.
Absolutely. So you can reach us either by phone number, email address. You can come to the Alberta Securities Commission itself, but with the pandemic going on right now, I wouldn't recommend that, but you can always call us and we can always help you. And that could be even if you've been offered it, but you haven't put any money into it, report it anyways, because by doing that, you could potentially stop a fraudulent actor from getting someone else involved in a scam. It's so important that a lot of people recognize that they can play a really key part in stopping fraud from infecting their community and stopping it right in its tracks. So yeah, anytime, no matter what.
Many people have gotten those scams where, you know, they're threatening that legal action or the RCMP is going to be coming to your door if you don't, and whatever. So those are the kinds of things that could be reported to you.
Yeah, so that would fall more to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. We deal strictly with investment, but what I tell everyone is don't feel like, you know, if you don't know what it should be directed to not contact us. We can still direct you to the right organization and get the ball moving with you talking to the right people. So don't feel like you have to go search for the right organization. We will help get you there and make sure that you can report it and feel safe.
And if enough of us do that, then maybe we'll put an end to some of these scammers. And so yes, and it's great to know that that the checkfirst.ca. I think that's great advice. If you're uncertain at all, and the new amendments coming in, the TCP and the holds.
I strongly recommend it. It's so important, and it's just a great way. It's completely free, but a great way to put a safeguard on your accounts. You know, we see so many heartbreaking stories of fraudsters and you know, bad actors taking large amounts of money from seniors. And this is a great way to stop it right there and give the power of financial advisor to block that and make sure that that's not going to happen, and that the right person that you trust gets contacted about it. So great way to keep yourself safe.